This episode is sponsored by Cribl.
Syslog is free because it honestly kinda sucks for analysis. The gold standard in this space is Splunk. The challenge is that deploying Splunk is hard because it's increasingly difficult to find a princess to kidnap for ransom to pay for the thing here in 2022. The solution here is to look into something like Cribl Stream. It filters out extraneous data before sending it to Splunk, since you probably don't need a full fidelity copy of every load balancer health check dating back to 2012. You can route data to the most cost-effective location for it, since inside of Splunk is great when you need it and incredibly overwrought when you don't. That alone gets you 30% or more in savings. But of course there's more. Condense logs into metrics where it makes sense, reduce the noise to better see the signal, replay logs to other places when you need to, and stop worrying about the Royal Guard finding you when they're trying to track the princess down. To learn more about Cribl, smash the link, tell them I sent you, tap the like and subscribe buttons as per YouTube norms, and tell them I sent you again. Both you and the princess will sleep way easier.
Two Aurora Serverless diverged in a prod account, and sorry I could not deploy to both. And being one developer, long I stood, and looked into v2 as far as I could to where it scaled beyond my budget. Then looked at the first just as arcane, and having perhaps the better model, because it scaled to 0 and had a data API, though it did not support multiple regions, and scaling up dropped connections onto the ground. I shall be telling this with a sigh. On-call pages and pages hence. Two Aurora's Serverless diverged in a prod account, and I took the one newly launched, and now production is both expensive and broken.
The woeful tale of AWS's diverging Aurora Serverless offerings began when Amazon Aurora Serverless version 1 was announced at reInvent all the way back in 2017. Version 1 has some problems that are a bit gnarly and, frankly, make it tough to justify trusting production with it. So I was on board when Aurora Serverless v2 was announced 3 years later at reInvent 2020. It became generally available in 2022 after about a year and a half or so of public preview, and it purports to solve all of the problems with Aurora Serverless version 1. Unfortunately, every word of Aurora Serverless v2 is a lie. Aurora is AWS's custom database engine that's named after a fairy tale princess. Unlike every Disney movie you've ever watched as a kid, AWS's relational database services fall short of the implicit promise of a happy ending that's assured to heroines, ranging from Ariel to Jasmine to Eve. Yes, Eve is a Disney princess, just like Princess Leia is. Serverless gets the bulk of my irritation, though, as far as misnamed words go. Unlike its predecessor, Aurora Serverless v2 does offer multi-region capabilities, but it violates every other implicit promise attached to serverless, most abhorrently to me that it doesn't scale to 0. v2 is the final betrayal. The second version of an AWS service is supposed to be notably better across the board and able to entirely supplant the first version. As it stands now, Aurora Serverless v2 is nowhere even remotely near that point. The implicit promise of serverless is you pay per request, and when it's not in use, it scales to 0 so you don't pay for anything. Yes, you pay for whatever data you're storing, but that's always been the case. Aurora Serverless v1 understood this. It scaled down to nothing and then it would stop charging you. The first request would then wake the system up, sure, at a potential latency cost of up to a minute, which wasn't great, but okay, surely v2 is going to fix that. Well, it did in the worst possible way. Buried in the documentation, AWS states that currently, Aurora Serverless v2 writers and readers don't scale all the way down to 0 ACUs. As a result, the lowest you'll pay a month for one of these things is the princely sum of just shy of 45 bucks. Explain to me again why, for light workloads, you wouldn't just run your database engine of choice on a less expensive RDS instance or even on top of EC2. I really hope that this gets fixed by the time that I record this video and the time I publish it, because calling Aurora Serverless v2 serverless is going to get everyone sideways about what the term means. But sadly, there's already strong evidence that this is already a lost cause. One of the reasons to have a serverless database is that AWS handles all of the scaling problems attendant to serverless applications. It could be sitting there idle, and then 5,000 Lambda functions spin up and basically just pummel a database to death. It happens. Aurora Serverless v1 handled this super well by introducing the data API that Lambdas could all hit without knocking the underlying service over with a flood of new connection requests all at the same time. You know, the herd of elephants problem. Of course I've heard of elephants. There's a flock of them right over there. Now for some workloads, this is awesome. The Aurora Serverless v2 eschewed using this entirely and instead uses the Amazon RDS proxy. What the hell's that? Well, I don't know, because its minimum charge is another 12 cents an hour on top of the underlying Aurora Serverless v2 databases, and it still makes you manage the database connection pooling yourself unless your Lambdas hug the thing to death, so it doesn't even solve the problem. I keep hoping that there's something key that I'm missing here, but I found a pile of reviews by other people across the internet, and they're all functionally pointing out this same flaw. The confusing thing to me is that Aurora Serverless v2 was in preview from December of 2020 to April of 2022. AWS had ample time to take a solid whack at a v2 that truly fixed the problems with the first version and then let that first version become functionally deprecated. Instead, no, we're staring down two diverging roads for Aurora Serverless. AWS now has a v1 and a v2 of the same service, each one offering different capabilities and trade-offs. That amounts to two different services that are sold under the same freaking name. Customers are gonna be confused. Hell, I'm confused. I have to hope and trust that this is a temporary situation that was going to rapidly improve. But as of today, I am completely unconvinced.